Before the world knew his name, before governments scrambled to explain themselves, one man quietly confirmed a fear most people were too uncomfortable to face. We were never alone online. We were never unobserved. And privacy, as we understood it, was already gone. It started with a choice. A single decision made in a quiet room, far from cameras and headlines. A man stared at a screen filled with documents he was never supposed to see, documents that described the digital lives of millions of strangers in cold, technical language. Phone calls, emails, searches, locations, patterns of behavior reduced to data points. And in that moment, he realized something irreversible. This wasn't about catching criminals. This wasn't about national emergencies. This was about everyone. He wasn't a hacker. He didn't break into the system. He was invited inside, a trusted insider, trained, vetted, cleared. Someone who believed at first that he was helping protect his country. He worked in silence, surrounded by people who treated secrecy as routine, the kind of place where extraordinary power feels normal because it's hidden behind procedure. Day after day, he watched as surveillance programs expanded quietly, not loudly, not violently. They grew through paperwork, approvals, technical upgrades, each system justified, each access point logged, each boundary pushed just a little further than before. No one announced it to the public. They didn't have to, because the public wasn't supposed to know. At first, he accepted the explanations. Terrorism, national security, threat prevention, the familiar language of fear. But as time passed, something became impossible to ignore. The net was too wide. These systems weren't targeting suspects. They were targeting infrastructure, entire communication networks, fiber optic cables, servers owned by private companies, data centers that stored the daily lives of ordinary people. The programs didn't ask who you were. They assumed you might matter later. Every phone call you made, every message you sent, every location ping from your device, all of it could be collected, stored, analyzed, and revisited years into the future. Not because you were guilty, but because you existed. The man began reading deeper. Technical manuals, internal presentations, legal justifications written in language so dense it almost disguised their meaning. Almost. What he saw terrified him, not because the technology was advanced, but because it was invisible. The most effective surveillance doesn't feel like surveillance. It feels like convenience. Faster services, smarter devices, seamless connections. And while people argued online about social media and apps, the real machinery operated quietly underneath it all. He struggled with the knowledge. He wasn't reckless. He wasn't naive. He understood the consequences of exposing classified information. Prison, exile, being erased from normal life forever. But he also understood something else. Once this kind of power exists, it doesn't shrink. It only grows. He asked questions internally, careful ones, hypothetical ones. He watched how people reacted. Some avoided the conversation. Some joked. Some looked uncomfortable. No one denied the scope of what was happening. They just didn't think it mattered. That was the moment he realized the danger wasn't malicious intent. It was normalization. So he began documenting everything, quietly, methodically. Not out of anger, but out of obligation. He copied files that described programs designed to monitor entire populations, agreements between governments and corporations, legal loopholes that redefined words like collection and target until they meant almost nothing. This wasn't surveillance as people imagined it. It was surveillance as default. The decision to speak didn't come with certainty. It came with fear, with sleepless nights, with the knowledge that once the truth was out, there was no going back. He wouldn't be a whistleblower to some. He would be a traitor, a criminal, a threat. But silence felt worse. When the first reports appeared, the reaction was confusion, then disbelief, then denial. Officials insisted the public misunderstood, that safeguards existed, that no one was spying in the way people feared. Then more documents emerged, and the denials collapsed. The world learned that phone metadata was being collected in bulk, that internet traffic flowed through monitoring points, that intelligence agencies had access to data from major tech companies, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly, sometimes with cooperation, disguised as compliance. People learned that privacy laws were interpreted in secret courts, that oversight existed mostly on paper, that transparency was optional, and something shifted. Not because people were shocked, but because they felt confirmed. Everyone had sensed it. The ads that felt too accurate, the suggestions that felt intrusive, the feeling that devices knew more than they should. The documents didn't create paranoia, they validated it. Governments reacted quickly. Press conferences, legal threats, accusations. The man at the center of it all disappeared from public view, moving from place to place, chased not by criminals, but by institutions. He became a symbol overnight. To some, he was a hero who sacrificed everything to expose the truth. To others, he was reckless, dangerous, unforgivable. But the documents didn't disappear. Journalists around the world verified them. Experts confirmed their authenticity. Courts were forced to respond. Lawsuits followed. Reforms were proposed. Some passed, many didn't. And slowly, the conversation changed. People stopped asking, "Is this happening?" They started asking, "What do we do now?" The man paid a heavy price. He lost his home, his freedom of movement, his anonymity. Every relationship in his life was altered by a single decision. He lived knowing he could never return to normalcy, never step out of the shadow he had created. But the systems he exposed didn't vanish. They adapted. Surveillance became more sophisticated, more distributed, less centralized, harder to trace. Technology moved faster than legislation ever could, and convenience continued to blur the line between consent and coercion. Today, the cameras are smaller, the algorithms are smarter, the data is richer, and the question he forced the world to confront still hangs unanswered. If everyone is being watched, who decides what that means? Because the most unsettling truth wasn't that governments could spy on people. It was that they already were, quietly, legally, systematically, and most people had agreed to it without ever being asked. The man didn't destroy privacy. He proved it had already been redesigned without public consent. And once something like that is revealed, it can never be unseen.